The White House is ramping up its COVID response, announcing Americans can once again get free COVID test kits as concerns are growing over a rare form of severe strep in children. Ariel Reshef has more.
Health officials warning COVID infections are rapidly climbing on top of the crippling combination of viruses like flu and RSV already sweeping the country.
Our emergency department has been seeing about 170% of our usual daily volume.
In an effort to push back against a winter surge, the White House urging people to get COVID and flu vaccines and once again rolling out free rapid COVID tests.
We have the know-how to manage this moment. And that means protecting people, preventing hospitalizations and deaths.
And with the Tripledemic tightening its grip, the CDC investigating another illness. Children's hospitals in at least 4 states, from Washington to Texas and Arizona, seeing an unusual increase in the number of rare invasive strep A cases. Dozens reported so far. 2 children have died in Colorado.
So what we're seeing is the rise of a number of pathogens that are now coming out from having essentially been dormant over the last few years with all the mitigation efforts.
That uptick coming as 43 states report very high or high levels of flu-like activity. For one Michigan family, flu turning frightening. 3 of their children hospitalized with the virus. 7-year-old June admitted first.
She had a high fever, body aches, and she was lethargic.
June's younger brother and sister admitted days later.
This is like waking up from a nightmare a little bit. And we're just so grateful that everyone's healthy again.
And it is good to hear that those children are doing better. And back to those severe cases of strep, doctors say they are extremely rare. But if your child has a sore throat for more than a couple of days, seems to be having trouble swallowing, has a concerning rash or a high fever, you should definitely contact your pediatrician. Alexis.
All right, good advice. Ariel Reshef, thank you. I want to bring in ABC News contributor and Chief Innovation Officer at Boston Children's Hospital, Dr. Brownstein, for more on this. Doctor, of course, we just saw you in Ariel's report. Good to see you. So, look, with these infection cases rising now around the country, how can we all stay safe during the holidays when we're planning to all come together again?
Well, Alexis, the good news is that this is the silver lining of the pandemic is that we know how to protect ourselves from respiratory viruses, right? We know that if you're symptomatic, you should stay home. If you've had some exposure to someone with COVID, you absolutely should consider staying home or at least testing. Testing day of before a gathering is critical. You want to make sure that when you're gathering, you have good ventilation and that you're essentially vaccinated against the things that we can vaccinate against. Flu, the COVID boosters that are available now, making sure that we top up the immunity for the viruses that are circulating and essentially make sure that we're protecting our most vulnerable. And in some cases, masking when we're especially around the elderly or immunocompromised.
Now, of course, besides the flu, besides RSV and COVID, there have been a growing number of strep cases in children. 2 deaths have already been reported. Why are we seeing the increase here this year?
Yeah, well, Alexis, I want to make sure people recognize that strep A, for the most part, is not serious. You know, many kids get it, that sore throat, and can be treated with antibiotics. But this rare invasive strep A is a progression, and it's this bacteria entering into areas where it doesn't normally enter, like the bloodstream, and they can cause rare complications, and that's why we're concerned. And the reason we're seeing this is the same reason we're seeing the rise in RSV and COVID. These mitigation efforts that we had during the pandemic have gone away, and now we're seeing this rise of all these pathogens, flu, COVID, RSV, and now strep A. And that's what's really concerning and especially impacting our youngest kids. And that's why it's so important to keep them healthy in the coming weeks as we start to get together.
Absolutely. So, Doctor, you mentioned antibiotics. We're actually reporting the shortage in some places of antibiotics like amoxicillin that we know would be used to treat infections like strep. So any guidance there for parents?
Right. Well, this is the problem, right? We have this rise in illness, this unexpected early and severe rise in cases. And of course, there's a rush on these important drugs, including antibiotics. And that's why we're seeing these spot shortages. But the reality is these drugs are available. It'll just take a little extra time. So you're going to have to shop around a little bit. You may want to look for alternatives. So work with your provider to see what there might be alternative products out there for you. There's some online tools like GoodRx that you can use, and then check back later. You know, pharma companies are ramping up production. The pharmacy chains are trying to figure out the supply to make sure that every store has availability. So things will even out, but it's just going to take a little extra time over the coming weeks.
Got to have some patience. Dr. Brownstein, yes. Thanks so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.